everyone, it's Rachel. In this tutorial, I want to show you how to create a lightning storm using the Color Therapy app. You can transform any landscape image with the sky in the app into a moody electric storm. Look for images that have a foreground and a background for best results. If you'd like to follow along, search for this image under sky. All right, let's start off with filling in our background and foreground. So go under the Dark Shades 2 palette. I'm using the first color and I'm just tapping in the foreground. In the same palette, I'm using the third color on the second row and I'm just tapping to fill in the middle ground. And with the airbrush tool, I'm gonna use size 100 and opacity at about 75. And with coloring inside the lines mode set to off, I'm just gonna add a little bit of light into the foreground and just blend the foreground and the middle ground. Now, select the fourth color on the top row. With those same settings with the airbrush tool and coloring inside the lines mode set to off, just add in a nice purple layer to the top of the sky. And now I'm using the last color on the second row. It's a nice blue. Just adding that into the sky. Then over in the vibrant palette, I'm using the first color and just adding in a little bit of that pink to the horizon. Now let's lower the opacity down to 45. And back in the vibrant palette, I'm using the first color on the very last row, light blue. And I'm just gonna softly add it into some of the clouds in just one area. And then I'm gonna lower the size down further to all the way to 15. And now I'm gonna start to define those clouds. So I'm kind of using a little squiggly line movement and just kind of going up and down and just like softly adding little squiggles. So kind of keep these like soft and horizontal, but just like curving upward. Under the Dark Shades 2 palette, I'm using the fifth color on the second row. It's a nice little purple. I'm adding in some more clouds. So just doing little wispy movements, going around the same area that I did, kind of illuminating the clouds where the lightning's coming from. Okay, so in this Dark Shades palette, again, let's use the second color on the top row and add in more clouds. You can also turn on coloring inside the lines mode to on if you want, and you can use that. If there's clouds already in your image, you can kind of just trace them and add more definition if you'd like. So we're really just like adding layers of color and just highlighting our clouds, just building them up. Now raise the size to 40. You can apply that color even further and just start to begin to blend them, make them fuzzy and soft. But yet you can also make them ominous as well by just defining the lines and movement of the clouds. Now with size between 30 to 70, you can add that color into the middle ground. So just shading it. Now let's use the spray tool, set the size and opacity at 45. So I'm just adding a little bit of the white into the horizon here and there, just kind of making it look soft. And then also up in the sky where we want to have our lightning come down, I'm going to start to make it look fuzzy a little bit. Okay, in the basic palette, I'm using red, which is the second color. Now with the spray tool, I'll have the size at 75 and opacity at 45. And I'm just going to softly add it into a few areas here and there in the clouds, as well as the horizon. And then I'll raise the opacity to 75 and the size at 15 and add in even more details, just little bright areas of red. Now let's set the airbrush tool size to 30 and opacity at 18. Using white and turning coloring inside the lines mode set to on, I'm just going to start to define the area where I want my lightning to come out of. So I'll just have two areas, just like softly adding it in. And maybe another lightning right down here. And then raise the opacity to 100. And you want to make that area super bright white. You can turn coloring inside the lines mode to off just so it can diffuse a little bit behind those clouds. You can also finish filling in your formations now that you're done with the sky for the most part. So I just sampled the color in the foreground. So you can shade and color your foreground and background as you'd like. Make sure to add in colors from the sky, so it's going to be reflecting the sky. Okay, so now the fun part is the lightning. Let's go to the pen tool. All right, so with the pen tool, set the size at 3 and opacity at 100 for the big lightning strikes. Using white, make sure coloring inside the lines mode is set to off. And you can draw your little bolts so they can kind of curve off into other directions. They can even go sideways. And let's diffuse them with the airbrush tool. So let's set the size at 15 and opacity at 55 and just go over the strikes with the airbrush tool. That really helps to make them look electrified. Now for the smaller lightning strikes, you can do size between 1 and 2, and then the opacity at 65. And then you can just draw your little lightning strikes outward. And lower the size down to 1 and just draw a little more lightning strikes coming off. Draw lots of little legs coming off the big ones too. Not all of the lightning strikes need to touch the ground either. Feel free to add in some detail into the foreground as well, such as silhouettes of trees or people, with a little bit of highlight added to them as well. If you'd like to see more tutorials like this, don't forget to subscribe to the Color Therapy YouTube channel so you don't miss any new tutorial videos. Thanks for watching our tutorial. You can get the Color Therapy app for free on the App Store.